I have a person who is currently incarcerated at the Washington State Penitentiary. Will you please state your name?
Anthony Covert.
Now, I've noticed that you've had several ideas about some of the stuff that's going on in the world, particularly the way folks are treating other folks, like the law enforcement and people they go out to arrest. What would you like the audience to know about this situation from your standpoint?
Well, one of the biggest things that I find most concerning is the aspect of what does it mean to be an incarcerated person coming back into the community, right? And in light of all the events of things that are happening to individuals out in the community that are community members that are non-released incarcerated individuals, there's been becoming a major concern about the handling and individuals coming out that have a criminal record, right, that have paid their penance to society but can still be viewed as the person that is on paper and not so much the person that they became.
Now, is there a reason that people should trust someone who just comes out of incarceration?
I would say that's one of the biggest things is that people are only able to see what they're given, right? So the media will sometimes show a depiction of what people that are incarcerated are doing or capable of. You'll see things perpetuated about some violent stuff that happens to those that are incarcerated, but you never really get to see the aspect of the positive side of people incarcerated and what happens when they graduate or what happens when they get involved with programs that sometimes shift and change the environment in which they live in.
What do you think is one of the biggest reasons people commit crimes and go to prison?
One of the biggest reasons people this time do what now?
One of the biggest reasons people commit crimes and then subsequently go to prison.
A lot of the times it comes from lack of understanding of their own environment, because people commit crimes because they're either, one, they are unable to achieve things in the normal fashion. And when I say normal, I just mean having the opportunities that others have. And so when you're a person, let's say in my situation, a person of color, that is then thrust into society where your family has become dependent on either state-provided agencies such as welfare and things of that nature, food stamps, and you become solely dependent on those things, and you're unable to really pursue the pursuit of happiness because you are unable to have someone that can provide effective care, or you're unable to have someone that's able to maintain a job because there's not enough jobs available in their area, or it's people that lack the skills because our education system has been lacking in the tools to be able to teach people that have different learning styles. And so when you have someone that comes out of an environment like that, they tend to go for what they see is in their environment. And so if there's drug dealing going on in your environment, if there's violence happening in your environment, and things where there's not an opportunity for people to get out of those environments or to change those environments, well, people tend to just fall into the same patterns of, well, this is what's normal in my community, so I'm just going to do what's normal and not strive to be anything more or anything different, because there's no real opportunity for them.
Now, I remember I posted about incarceration once, and I was more or less saying that people who are incarcerated could have a bad childhood, or maybe they were in a stressful situation. And the response was, so it's our fault that these people are locked up. Now, do you think it's the government's responsibility or the community's responsibility to provide handouts and training and resources that would give you a better opportunity to stay away from prison, or do you think this is up to the individual to seek out stuff and do this thing on his own?
I would say that there's both. It goes hand in hand, right? It is on the individual to seek out, to try to figure out what is available in their communities. But I also think that it's on the communities and the governments to provide opportunities for people to find those things which they're seeking out. Because if people are seeking and they're not finding nothing that they can utilize to help them get to where they need to go, well, then our communities have failed, because there hasn't been an opportunity for this person or these people to be able to find the necessary things needed to be more constructive and to be more prosperous within their own communities. And so it does go hand in hand, right? It's not, the burden isn't put on primarily one or the other. But I will say that the initiative on both parts would help increase the amount of success that happens in our communities.
Al, you're in protective custody. You're in protective custody right now, and
yes,
there are a lot of resources that's available in there. You have training that you can go to. You can even get degrees. You have good medical attention, which is something that you should be getting on the outside. Those same opportunities should be available. So let's say a year ago you aren't incarcerated. Compare that to being incarcerated and what made a difference. So last year you wouldn't have been incarcerated. What would you have done? Last year you were incarcerated. What did you do? So could you compare having those resources available within prison and then the resources being available outside of prison, and how that made a difference in your life?
So when I got incarcerated, I was 18 years old. And so during that time, I was in this transition period of leaving what is deemed an adolescence age to a adulthood age, right? That transition from 17 to 18, you are now recognized as an adult in the United States. And so during that time, I sought out help from being a ward of the state. They assisted me in getting an apartment. They assisted me in being able to furnish my apartment and set up my pretty much my life to some degree. And then it was on for me from there on to figure it out. So I enrolled into school. I had a job. I was able to make it to and from my job and school and kind of balance it out. Then the struggling aspects came in when I needed more assistance. I didn't know where to go or to look for that, because I wasn't taught where to go or to look for that. And so the places that I would go and try to seek out assistance or help, it was more so running into people that felt like I should already just know this stuff. And when they would give me paperwork and things like that to fill out, and I'd be like, well, I don't know what's happening here. Well, there's such a high volume of individuals that are in that same position that you become discouraged, right? Now, is that an excuse to go out and commit crimes? That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that because of that, I went and resorted to what I seen previously in my community as an outlet to be able to maintain a status of living, where it was me being able to maintain a place to stay, food on my table, and things of that nature, because I was unable to get further assistance. Being an 18-year-old kid, both trying to work and go to school to create something, there are a lot of people that are able to do that. But if you think about it, the majority of people have assistance. I didn't have assistance from family and things like that to lean on. It was just me by myself. And once again, I don't want it to sound like, oh, it's an excuse to just go and do whatever I wanted to do. I did make the choice at the end of the day to be like, you know what, I know an easier route. But that choice came in light of not being able to have a sufficient place to go to get assistance. Now, being incarcerated, it changes that, right? Because everything is given to you. I don't have bills I have to pay. I don't have a commute that I have to make back and forth to and fro work. And so it's one of those things where it's like your jobs are provided for you, your food's provided for you, your housing is provided for you. So what is it that you have time to do in here? I have time to learn to educate myself because of the reduced cost rates to being able to educate yourself. I have time to be able to really become more effective with my education and being able to develop who it is that I want to be, because that's allowed. But the downside is that because of my time structure, I wasn't given the same opportunities as somebody that had less time as me. And so I had to carve my way into these programs and into these opportunities without any real assistance. And then as time progressed, when you create a familiarity with staff, administration, and things like that, they become more receptive to the idea of someone that's outside of their spectrum of 10 years or less to participate in these programs. It kind of creates a movement to where they allow more people to be a part of it. But my biggest concern for that is that because they don't allow it for so many people, we have young kids that come in at 18 years old, 19 years old, with 60, 70 years that can't participate in any of these programs, that are left to just essentially run the streets or move around the facility with nothing to do. And you, as well as I know, and a lot of people would know, when you have kids with too much time on their hands, they tend to just resort to what it is that they've seen in their communities, whether it be violence, whether it be drugs, whether it be things to help them pass the time, because there's nothing else for them to strive for.
Now let's say a legislator came down to meet with you to get some ideas on what can be done to help give these young folks something to do and keep them out of trouble. What would you suggest to the Washington State legislator to help prevent a crime being committed?
I think the number one thing that's going to help a lot of the youth in here is understanding that the community hasn't given up on them. There needs to be more community involvement with the incarcerated population. Like I said, just because you're 18 years old, that doesn't make you an adult. Just because you have committed a crime doesn't mean you understand what you have done. You see, there's in brain science to prove that until the age of 25, the culpability factor of what it is that someone understands that they have done after committing a crime is very low compared to anyone after the age of 25. And so these kids, these young adults that are in here, they need to know that the community hasn't just given up on them. Because what happens when they come in here, what happened for me when I came into the system at a young age of 18 years old, I felt that my community abandoned me. And so since my community abandoned me, there was no sense or urgency to feel like, well, I need to go back and introduce myself in the community as this changed person until I wanted it for myself. Unfortunately, not everybody gets to go through that process. Some people just stay in that very mind state that the community has abandoned them, and so therefore we're just going to go ahead and stay in what I'm comfortable with or what I'm familiarized with, because that's what I've seen growing up in my community. What I would say and reiterate is that the community involvement is so imperative to the success of people coming back into society that it needs to have more of that, especially here at WSP, Washington State Penitentiary.
And how long have you been incarcerated?
I've been incarcerated since 2008. I came here to the Washington State Penitentiary in 2010.
Are you ready to return to society?
I feel like that question has a lot of layers to it, right? Yes, in short terms, that I'm ready to go back into society. The reason why I say yes, I'm ready to go back into society, because not only have I taken accountability for my actions and understanding the harm that I did cause to my community when I committed my crime, but I also understand the power of being able to go out and utilize preventative action to prevent others that are in the same position I was in to find and seek out assistance, even if it's not readily available, giving them the encouragement and the tools necessary needed to be able to be successful. It's more so than just saying ready to be back to go back into the community. It is being able to say that I am ready to go back and be a citizen of the community. I'm ready to go back and be a contributing member to society. Because that's what society is about. That's what community is about, is contributing to your community And I didn't understand that as a young 18-year-old. But here I am, 32, understanding that my community is what is necessary for me to be successful. And in order for my community to be successful, I must need to be successful in that community for that to happen, and give opportunities to other people that don't have opportunities. And so that would be my goal, and not only my mission, going back into the community, is being a positive aspect of that community.
And what do you expect the community to do when you walk out that door?
For me, what do I expect for me to do?
Well, the community. What kind of assistance do you expect from the community when you walk out the door, so we can welcome you with open arms?
For me, I think the number one thing is for the community to accept the person that I am today, and allow for me to show them that my transition from an 18-year-old young adult to a 32-year-old man is a transition that wasn't made overnight. It took those 14 plus years for me to reinvent that kid and understand what it meant to not only cause harm to the community, but now what it means to bring healing into the community. I would like for my community to embrace me as one of their own and say, you know what, we are going to look past your past and look towards your future and what you do from here on out. Because everything you do from here on out is going to be working towards that goal of being a productive member in the community. And I think it is important to let the community know that in order for me to be able to fully immerse myself, they have to trust that I'm bringing something of value back into the community.
Okay, before we go, do you mind if anybody reaches out to you on e-messaging like Securus and JPay?
Absolutely not. Anyone can reach out. I am very open for people to be able to have an open dialogue with me. Any concerns or questions that they may have about what's maybe happening inside with the incarcerated population, I think it's important to keep these conversations going.
We have 1 minute left.
And to be able to keep these ideas flowing to create new opportunities.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that with us, and definitely keep in contact.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joel.
You're welcome.
I want to thank you all for your support that you are giving to us. We really appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Thank you.